Okay, we're going to be talking about Texas history. This is going to be pretty much the only Texas history that you will get. We don't do Texas history in 7th grade, so it's going to be fast and quick. Please be taking notes on your PowerPoints as I talk through this part. Okay, so first we kind of talked about this a little bit on Wednesday, kind of how Texas became Texas. So it starts with Stephen F. Austin. His dad wanted to come into Mexico. It was new land, and so his name was Moses Austin. Well, he dies, and his son, Stephen, picks up the torch and starts to bring settlers into Texas. So he brings in so many that by about 1835, we see that we have more Texans in Mexico than Mexico. So when they enter in, they get permission from the Spanish government. Awesome. But by the time they actually settle into Mexico, Mexico has fought a war against Spain for their independence, and they are their own now. And so this treaty that Stephen F. Austin had made with the Spanish really doesn't apply anymore. So he makes a treaty now with the Mexican government. And they soon come in, and they actually outnumber the Mexicans. This really infuriates Santa Anna, who is the kind of the general of Mexico at the time. And so by the 1830s, Santa Anna has closed the Mexican border and cut off Texas trade. Well, that doesn't really stop anybody from coming in, and people start flooding in more. So by 1833, Austin requests from Santa Anna that Texas becomes its own state within the Mexican country. Santa Anna really isn't going for it, but then there's this like crazy story of how Stephen F. Austin had written a letter back to some rebels who were fighting for that cause of becoming its own state, and Santa Anna got his hand on that letter, and that letter actually got Stephen F. Austin thrown into prison. He's in prison for about 18 months. Santa Anna sends troops down into Texas. And so this is kind of where we get our battle for independence. Before the Alamo, we fight in Gonzales, Texas in 1835. Mexican troops go down there and they accidentally blow up a cannon. They shoot it off. I hope this sounds familiar to you, and they retreat. And this is known as the Lexington of the Texas Revolution. So you're going to need to jot down some notes on why you think that's called the Lexington of the Texas Revolution. Think back to the American Revolution, and that'll give you the answer. The United States doesn't send any aid to Texas as they're fighting for their independence from Mexico, but some southern states do. So about 300 men from Georgia show up to help them fight for independence, and then 2 companies from New Orleans show up. So originally, this wasn't a battle for independence. This was a battle for, hey, we signed a constitution with you guys, and y'all aren't abiding by it. But then when these other states kind of get involved, it turns into this independence idea. So before the Alamo, we have Gonzales, and then we also have Goliad. There's going to be 2 battles kind of at Goliad. So before the Alamo, we fight at Goliad, and it's an easy win for Texas. And most of the Texans really think the war is over. We were able to take Goliad, and we were able to take San Antonio. But Jim Bowie and Sam Houston don't believe that this is the end. They do believe that Santa Anna is going to attack, and they think he's going to attack in winter. They are fine with an attack in winter if they can fight in the fields. They understand the Texas terrain where the Mexicans really didn't. But they definitely did not want to fight in the Alamo because it's really hard to defend. It's not a fort. It's an old mission. So it was a church originally. So it's really hard to defend. Plus, supplies were low in the Alamo, so they could easily get trapped. And that's essentially what happened. Houston tells everybody to abandon the Alamo. Well, Bowie decides to go against this. He really feels that he has to hold this mission because this is a stronghold. If Santa Anna is able to take the Alamo, then he can take the rest of Texas. So Bowie wants to protect the Alamo to hence protect Texas. The Alamo is under the control of William Travis and Davy Crockett. You should know those names, or they should be familiar to you. There's only about 183 men in the Alamo. By the way, we are in the year 1836. Important for you to write that down because I'm going to have a timeline. You know how I love my timelines. So by February 23rd, about 4,000 Mexicans started to assault the Alamo. 13 days later, Santa Anna shows up with new reinforcements, about 5,000 troops, and he directly attacks the mission. Everyone dies in the mission but 3 people. Susanna Dickinson, she is the wife of a soldier that died, her daughter, and a slave that is sent to escort her and her daughter away. Those are the only survivors. Santa Anna came in with the idea of no mercy. He actually flew a red flag, which meant we will kill everybody in here. So we lose bad at the Alamo. Super bad. Just get annihilated. So we have San Jacinto. We fight again at Goliad and lose at Goliad. James Fannin is the commander at Goliad for the Texas troops. He surrenders to the Mexicans. About 300 men are with him. They're unarmed, and they really feel if they surrender, then they would save their lives. Well, Santa Anna kills all of them. This deepens the hatred for Mexicans, for the Texans, and they are more driven now to fight for independence than before. So we have San Jacinto. Sam Houston is at San Jacinto. He wins. That's all you really need to know about San Jacinto. Sorry. So we are able to win. The whole battle lasts about 20 minutes. We don't kill Santa Anna. We imprison him. But we go in with the battle cry, remember the Alamo. Well, we lost at the Alamo, so why in the world are we having a battle cry that says remember the Alamo? So the battle cry, the point of the Alamo really ignited this passion to fight for independence even more in the Texans than before. And then to add the situation at Goliad where they killed all those unarmed men, that add fuel to the fire. And so the importance of the Alamo on Texas history is that it really lighted a fire in these Texans troops to fight for their independence even stronger than they were before. This gave them kind of a leg up on the Mexican troops. And so the Battle of Alamo is very important because it was a battle cry. We fought at San Jacinto because we didn't want those men to die in vain. So it's very important to Texas history. So we have our independence. That's awesome. What are we going to do? Sam Houston becomes our first president. We are our own nation for about 10 years. The U.S. does not let us enter the Union. So Jackson is president at the time. We're already seeing some sectional divides between slavery and anti-slavery, the South and the North. And so if Texas entered the Union, that would throw off the balance of free and slave states. And that was not going to happen. They also realized that if they allowed Texas to enter into the Union, that would ignite a war with Mexico, and Jackson was just not for that. So he does not allow them enter into the war because of the slave issue and because he knows it will ignite a war with Mexico. But he does acknowledge that they are an independent country. So they're a country for 10 years. We're our own country for 10 years. Sam Houston is our president, our first president. You don't need to know anybody after that. So I need to go back a little bit. And this stuff is not in your book, and it's just going to be quick through here. You just need to kind of know the succession of presidents so that you can see how Texas is acquired into the Union. So William Henry Harrison dies in office. John Tyler becomes the president, right? So this is the first time we see a vice president becoming a president. Questions really start to emerge. How much power does Tyler have? Should he even be president? Should he have power? Is he his own man? So these are kind of the situations that are working themselves out through John Tyler's presidency. The Whigs nominated Tyler as vice president, not because they thought he was a good leader, but because they needed Southern votes. Not to run the country, but to gain Southern votes. We see this throughout history all the time. The only reason LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, was on the ticket with John F. Kennedy was for him to get the Southern votes. And then John F. Kennedy dies, and Lyndon B. Johnson becomes president. But the party that he's serving under didn't like him. So the same is here with John Tyler. The people that put him on the ticket, the Whigs, don't actually like him. They just needed him. Now he's president. Henry Clay particularly doesn't like John Tyler. He is known to quote that Tyler dares not to resist me. I will drive him before me. So he's saying he has no part in running this country. Well, John Tyler has a different opinion. John Tyler would not be controlled. He is going to be his own president, right? He's going to do his own thing. So once Tyler kind of vetoes Clay's proposals and pushes back against Clay, the Whig Party votes him out. His entire cabinet resigns, except for his Secretary of State, Webster, because Webster is negotiating a deal with Britain and Canada for our boundary up there with Oregon and Washington. So the Whigs call John Tyler his accidency, not his excellency, but his accidency, because apparently he was the accident president. John Tyler is important because he sets the precedent for how future vice presidents will run a country if they become a president. That is the big part of him. So he didn't back down. He ran the country as he felt like it should have been ran, and that's what all vice presidents do when they become presidents after the death of a president. So he set the mold for what this would look like. Campaign of 1844. Clay is going to run against Tyler. Tyler tries to improve his status by favoring the annexation of Texas. So this is where Texas comes in. Texas becomes the hot topic for the elections at this point. Okay, James K. Polk, he's going to be known as the dark horse. He actually wins the Democratic nominee to run for president. He's called a dark horse, and this term is still used in politics today because he wasn't taken as a serious president. Someone we know. He wasn't taken as a serious candidate and then somehow becomes president. So most Americans didn't even know who he was. He has a great resume, served 14 years in the House, 4 years as Speaker of the House. He's the former governor of Tennessee. He's closely associated with Andrew Jackson. He runs on a platform of reoccupation of Oregon. That's where Daniel Webster's negotiations with Britain and Canada are coming in. We have kind of a situation going on in Oregon we'll talk about in our next chapter, but we're trying to gain Oregon as our own. And so Polk runs on this platform of, yes, let's reoccupy Oregon. It's ours, manifest destiny, and the annexation of Texas. It's ours, manifest destiny. Polk wins this election. So John Tyler's out, Polk is in. He's considered the dark horse because no one was really taking him seriously, and he becomes the president. So Tyler is president. He sees the results of the election, and he pushes for this annexation of Texas before his term is up. A lot of presidents will do this. They will do executive orders, or they'll try to push things through right before the end of their presidency. One, because it doesn't matter, because they lost. They have no ties to any parties. They're not trying to win elections, and so they do whatever they want. Two, they want to be remembered as something. So Tyler wants to push this annexation of Texas through, so he's remembered for something. So he uses what's called a joint resolution. I'd like you to Google that and figure out what that is. Let me know when you're done with this. And he needed to get the majority vote in the House and in the Senate. 2 days before he leaves office, Texas is annexed into the Union, and we become the 28th state. So we are our own nation from 1836 to 1845. This is where I'm going to stop my screencast-o-matic. This is going to cause significant issues for Mexico and Texas. So some of those fears of annexing Texas in originally are going to actually come true. Okay, please make sure you have taken notes. After you are done here, you can move to the next station. Thank you, guys.